This is How Do I Do This? The show for anyone asking, is it just me or is this a lot? Parenting is hard on a normal day, but then you add in grief and all of a sudden you are dealt with a script that you don't know how to answer. I remember the first time my son asked me where Cookie, that's what he called my mom, was. All I had was a best guess and hope and love, and I didn't have the language to really tell him. I felt ill-equipped. My mom, if you've listened to some episodes, you know, was a teacher, and she believed that we should learn something new every day. So today, we are all going to class together. And with me are two incredible women who are going to help us navigate this and give us some words to use and also some resources. I'm joined today by the women who are the face of Kate's Club, Lisa Aman, who is the executive director, and Lane Pease Hendricks, who is the director of education and innovative programs for Kate's Club. And if you're not familiar with Kate's Club, it's an Atlanta-based nonprofit that supports children, teens, and young adults who are grieving the death of a parent, sibling, or caregiver. And they also have online resources. The question we're asking today is, how do I parent well while I'm grieving, and how do I talk to my children about grief? How do you talk to children in an age-appropriate way? What do you do when grief shows up months or years later in children? And how do you find accessible resources that are really going to help you and your child through this process? Lane and Lisa, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, before we get started, it's a tradition on this show that we have hot tea and my grandmother's tea set around her kitchen table, because I don't believe you can tell good lessons and learn good stories unless you're sitting at her table. These are facts in my life. And so we're having tea. So what did you both choose?
I did the chai.
Good. Awesome.
I did chai as well.
Awesome. Well, I did a mean boost because it's the fall here, and especially when you're dealing with grief, I learned that you sometimes can get sick quicker. So I'm all the time thinking about that. So before we get started, why don't y'all give the listeners and the viewers just an overview of what Kate's Club was? I first learned about it in the episode about faith, when the Reverend Katie Bradshaw was on the show, and we actually went to law school together, and before she went into the ministry, and she recommended you all as a resource for my son. So tell the listeners about Kate's Club.
Sure. So as you mentioned, we're a nonprofit based in Atlanta. We now actually have programs statewide. We expanded coming out of the pandemic. And we provide programs and services to help kids and their families and young adults learn how to grieve in a healthy way. And we do that really in two different ways. We do that with our clubhouses. We have 6 clubhouse locations throughout Georgia. And that's where kids and families come to us and young adults come to us. And we also go out into the community.
Okay.
So we do about half our work at in our clubhouse locations, and about half our work out in schools and in juvenile courts as well.
That's awesome. Since y'all both know Katie, in that episode, and I'm just going to be really honest because that's who I am, it's really hard for me to even now say that my mom died. And so with my son, I used the phrase, she passed on. And Katie in that episode so wisely said, Ryanne, you're an attorney, words matter. Past, even for a child who is in grade school and the age my son is, that can be kind of a confusing term. So let's let listeners learn and do better than I did. Okay. What should I have done? What could have been better?
Well, I like to say that the death talk or the grief talk is kind of like the sex talk. We talk to children in age-appropriate ways. Okay. We don't talk to a 6-year-old in the same way we would a 10 or 12, or in a 12-year-old the same way we do a 16-year-old. Okay. So that's kind of to get the lay of the land about how we talk to children. But at Kate's Club, we model using the word die. And so you might, or somebody talking to a child might say, Grandma died. And that means, and an 8-year-old would probably know what that means. But younger children, you really need to say, then what does die mean? It means their body stopped working. So they are not sick anymore. They're not lonely. They're not afraid. They don't get hungry. They can't talk on the phone. They can't get up. Their body has stopped working. And then you can explain either that was from a sickness or an accident, and you explain something happened to make their body stopped working. If somebody's been sick a while or gets sick suddenly, I'll say the doctors tried really hard to make them better, but it just didn't work. And everything that's living will die one day. So that's kind of a way to, and I like really if before somebody dies that we're not so afraid of talking about death. So if you're going on a walk with a child and they see a dead bird or a squirrel and they ask you a question, being honest about that, then when they have the first experience with a person or a pet dying, they get some kind of idea. They already have an idea of what that means.
Unlike what I did when we went on walks, and he would notice, and I would be like, "Don't look over here." So I definitely could have probably had made my life somewhat easier. So for younger children, you have to be, if I'm hearing you correctly, sometimes you have to make it what seems very obvious to us, but very simple to them. So let's say that someone is listening and they have a child that's in the preteen or teenage years. How would the language change?
Well, we still model the word die, lost. And even for yourself, as you say, you have trouble saying it, sometimes saying those words. So at Kate's Club, every program, we do what we call a welcome circle. So I would say, my name is Lane and my mom and dad died. And we would never correct a child if they say passed away or lost my father, but it really models that language. And it's interesting because when the adults come in, sometimes they're the ones that are really reluctant to use that word. But we find that using that word really does come to be acceptance in a way. So for an older child, I would just explain maybe in a little more detail if it was an accident or if it was, they may have more questions about what happened. Definitely they might have more questions about what happened. Sometimes school-age children have questions about, well, what happens to their body now? And there's resources to really explain the really difficult things that parents might struggle with, like cremation or burial. And we can talk about those in very, again, age-appropriate ways. So those preteens or little older kids may have more questions about what happened. Well, why did her heart stop working? Why couldn't the doctors made it better? And again, talking honestly is really important.
Yeah.
Our purpose is to create community around grief.
Okay.
And language is really important to do that. And a shared language is really important to do that. So when we do that welcome circle and everybody goes around and says their name and the name of the person who died, you, in a sense, normalize it. You make it okay. And that's a really powerful moment. Every single program, everything we do, we start with that welcome circle. And because grief can be so isolating, even though you and your son are living right in the same house, you're grieving independently until you talk about it. Yeah. And you talk about it honestly. So, and it's hard. And it's okay to say it's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Right. It's okay to say, I am not okay with this.
Yeah.
And you're asking me questions and I'm having a really hard time answering because this is really hard for me.
Yeah. A lot of times when he has asked me questions, I'm so fortunate that I have a child that big, huge, creative, empathetic heart. He is all heart, all kindness, all just, I think some days I think he's made up of rainbow and unicorn tears, truly. But he would ask me things, especially at night. It was always at night time. And never to my husband or his dad. I mean, it's always mom, right? I feel like, and they were breathtaking almost. And I remember it was probably 2 weeks after my mom had passed. And I had tucked him into bed. He had asked some big, huge question. And I will tell y'all how I sometimes deal with that. And y'all can help me and say that was either got it right, got it wrong, could have done better, probably could have done better. But I remember I walked into the bedroom and my husband my husband Dan said, so how was bedtime? I said, I love that child so much. I would not change a hair on his head. But if he could just give me a beat to catch up with his big, huge feelings and his big, huge, inquisitive mind, and just give me 2 weeks to catch up, that would be amazing. But it was just, balancing my feelings, my understanding, my acceptance, still working on my acceptance. And then with his big, creative, inquisitive mind, that oftentimes when he would ask those really big questions, I would say, what do you think?
I think that's a great answer, actually.
Yes.
Really?
And a lot of times I'll say, to children, especially in a crisis situation or something, I'll say, start with a question. What do you think happened? Or what do you think about that? People struggle with questions of faith, of like, well, what, young children may think if you say they're in heaven, they go, well, why can't we go visit? Or when are they coming back?
Yep, we did have that conversation.
Yeah. So I usually, one way to explain that is that, everything that made Cookie hit her personality, her laughter, her things that made her, if you have that faith of you believe she's in heaven, then you can say that's what's in heaven. And no, we can't talk to her physically anymore, but you can still talk to her. And we can still draw her pictures and she's still with us. So that's a way to distinguish, but her body's not here. The younger they are, your son's getting to where he can grasp. Probably at 9, he's starting to grasp those, something's different. They can get more, you can be less concrete in the sense of like her spirit is with us, and we'll see her again, if that's your faith belief.
Sure.
And versus the body, we can't see her physically anymore. So that's kind of a way to put that, because those are the tricky questions I think maybe he's wondering about.
Yeah.
I remember going out on a crisis call and telling a bunch of 4th graders that their classmate had died. And pretty soon, it was an after-school program, they started having discussions about what happens after we die. And some people thought, well, we come back. Some people thought we went to heaven. Some people thought nothing. But sometimes as adults, we don't see that these children have big questions and big ideas that are really quite amazing. So my colleague and I looked at each other and said, we're really having these discussions with this group of 4th graders of just debating and kind of wondering and thinking big thoughts about what happens after we die.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm working on, I'm in the middle of creating this season 2. And so I asked my son, I said, what do you think people should know about grief? And just very quick off the bat, he said, there are no subtitles. And I said, tell me more. What do you mean by that? Because it was so quick. Like he just, and he said, well, you know how when you're watching a movie and there's subtitles, you can understand what's going on. He said, I wish grief had a window that you could look through and see the subtitles, and so you would understand what to do next. And I was like, well, that's...
Okay, we may steal that one.
That's the wisest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
And I have to take that one.
I was just blown away that I said...
Amazing.
It's been almost a year, and meanwhile... he has said the most profound thing that no adult, and I've had a lot of conversations with people now, like it came from him.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful and accurate. And I'm like, yeah, I wish it had subtitles too. That would be
really helpful.
It would be so helpful. That's an amazing point. So it's good to know that the open-ended, what do you think? Because I do, at least with him and his personality, it has opened the door to, at least I think, validating his feelings in that moment. Because some things were just, more ethereal, I guess. Like he said, sometimes I feel like I can feel her when the wind blows. And I was like, all right. Well, yeah, and maybe you're right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we emphasize in our work is that maintaining a connection with the person who died is really, really important, especially for kids.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of our program.
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay. I mean, again, it's and it's good. I mean, so even though they're physically not with us, there is a way to stay connected with your person because they're important to you.
Yeah.
And again, depending on your faith and the way you think or feel spiritually, that is going to look different. But it is really, really important to create those memories, to remember big dates, birthdays, death anniversaries, and finding your own way individually and then together to, kind of say, this is a big day.
Yeah.
This is an important day. It's hard.
Yeah. And as the first are coming around, I feel very, like a newborn deer trying to stand, like very stumbly and wobbly. And I think as a parent, I feel a lot of pressure to get it right for him.
Yeah, of course.
And that also, and this probably y'all can tell me, but I kind of forget about me because I just like want to get it.
No, that's
tell me what I can do better.
Yeah, I mean, it's that old saying, and I think parents go, "Oh yeah, right."
The oxygen mask.
But you're also modeling for him how to cope with emotions and grief. So if you're always saying, "Oh, I'm fine, everything's fine," and you're not saying today's really hard, like I miss your grandmother, I miss Cookie, I miss my mom.
Yeah.
That's showing him it's okay and that you're a person too, know, and you can always say, when he asks some questions you don't know, you can say, I don't know, but what a good question. I wish I knew why these things happen. One of the biggest questions is why? Why would this happen when someone dies? And I'll say to kids, those are the questions everyone asks when someone dies. And I guess we just don't, I don't know why. Yeah. But taking care of yourself and whatever that looks like. And it's okay if there's not a great dinner every single night because you had a bad day. And you can say, it was really sad today. And I just couldn't cook. But the other thing that you impart, and I'm sure you do all the time, is like, I'm really sad right now, but we're going to be okay. Yeah. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's a big lesson as well, too. We can have these really hard times, but we're going to be okay and we're going to love each other. Another thing I wanted to mention, you're afraid of messing up, is that we know with the research, it's not even that so much what you say, it's your relationship. It's the warmth. It's the communication and warmth and being there. And you've got that.
The presence.
Yeah,
the
your presence and connection.
Yeah, and sitting with them in the grief.
Yeah.
Being with them in it, side by side.
Yeah.
Is so important. Yeah, and the research does show a child really does watch their parent and how they grieve. So that modeling is important.
So that brings up an interesting question because I still have my dad. Does that need ever really go away from a parent to a child? Because my dad is grieving in his own way, right? And so I'm in the child role. Does that? What does the research say as you get older? Because I'm grown, I'm an adult. I take care of myself. I take care of my business. But what does that look like as children or adults? Do they still need that connection with their parent?
I think it's a different connection in that it's a different to try to grieve together all, to be open and to of course he's grieving in a different way than you are, but still tremendous amount of grief. And what I found is when my own mom died and I was in my 40s, my dad's grief was so overwhelming to me. And I was still looking at him to be the parent to kind of say everything was going to be okay, yet he couldn't really do that for me at the time. He had been married over 50 years and, it was just very difficult on him. So I found myself wanting my dad back as I was a little girl, but he couldn't play that role at the time. So I don't know what the research says on that. I haven't really researched that as, older, not older adults, but adults into adulthood, not emerging adulthood, and a parent dies, how that happens. But I think it's just important to be open and honest and support one another as much as you can.
my brother had died when I was young. My father died when I was a young adult. Our family didn't talk about it. We're now talking about it. So decades later.
Okay.
Because my sister felt that our relationship as the 3 surviving siblings was really broken. And she's the one who put the work in and wants to, help us be better together because my mom's aging and 90 and at some point it's just gonna be us. So one practical kind of way that I brought from Kate's Club to my family was let's tell some stories. We're not going to talk about feelings, but we're going to tell stories.
Okay.
So what was your favorite story about Dad? Or let's just share some memories. That then leads to feelings about him and about each other. So that's one thing that in terms of no matter how old you are, and often when we are working with families who are really very confused, how did this happen? I just talked to him this morning.
Yeah.
Right?
That was my experience.
What happened?
Yeah.
So we often will say when we're having those, when the feelings get overwhelming, because they become overwhelming. When I am talking with the family, we'll tell me their favorite time. What was the favorite thing you did with your dad or with your grandma? And that storytelling then leads to the feelings. So I really miss Cookie. Yeah. But it came from, I did this, I cooked, or I made tea, or I had whatever it was. So starting with the story.
Yeah. So and I just want to back up just a little bit because your story sounds so similar to mine.
Yeah.
I'm in my mid-40s. My mom and dad had been married over 50 years. Can you think of something in particular in that time that your dad did well to help you, or how you supported him well?
I think just by being there for each other, being there. He did share a lot of stories about my mom and things I didn't know. I mean, things maybe I probably didn't need to know, and that I was I'm the youngest in the family and 5 years difference, and he just started talking, and apparently I wasn't supposed to be here, and I am, so that was interesting. But I did learn of my mom in a different way. So I think I more supported him, but he was older, and he was having a really rough time. So I think I really relied on my siblings, and we came together, and that's who we kind of supported each other and then supported our dad.
Got it.
That's just how it worked in my family, but every family's different.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what would you, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I think it's important to talk about the negative too. What would be some common mistakes that you see people make that we could say, you might want to think about doing this a little bit differently?
Well, I kind of alluded to this before, but if you say all the time, I'm doing great, we're fine, everything's perfect, they get this message of well, I'm feeling so sad, but I shouldn't let my caregiver know because they're doing great, or apparently something's wrong with these feelings I'm having. So that's a mistake. To be authentic is really important. I mean, you have to function. Again, you have to instill hope. If you're so debilitated by grief and even maybe coming into depression, you want to really talk to someone. And because children also need to know that they're going to be cared for, right? That if a parent dies, especially, they need to know that someone is going to take care of them, and you need to tell them that plan. Some other things that may be not so helpful is just keeping busy. We're just going to stay busy so we don't kind of deal with this.
Doing all the things.
Just
working,
doing things,
traveling,
travel. We're not going to settle in, and let ourselves feel the feelings. Those are some, I'm sure. I had one on the top of my head, but I forgot it. So
what I was going to say, I often hear you say, so I'm going to speak
good, because I'll
number
forget.
2 for a minute. And I'm sure you don't, but it is very tempting to say things like, well, at least they're no longer in pain.
Oh, at least
they're right. So that just obviously minimizes the feelings and all that stuff. So the kind of that we talk a lot about, try not, and it's
Not
hard
to minimize.
not to minimize their feeling, whatever they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
It could be something that is completely opposite to what you're feeling. It's okay.
Yeah.
And again, we use the
Yeah.
word okay a lot,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it really is okay.
I think that at least I heard that a few times at the
Oh, I
service,
heard it
and
very much.
it immediately just
Yeah, you shut down.
like made me glitchy feeling. And at the moment I thought, at least, like, what? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's kind of
they
like
use
if
it for
somebody says,
everything,
I
yeah.
love that dress, but everything
Yeah,
after
yeah,
but
yeah.
is the only thing you're going to
Take no
remember.
offense. That's the other
Right.
way. Like, I
Take
don't
no
mean to-
offense. Well, I mean,
and they do it a lot if older people die, or if it's if it's sudden, they'll say at least they didn't suffer. If they lived a long life, at
that's
least
my
they lived a long
mom.
life.
But that was
and-
my mom.
But that minimizes,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be so sad. When my dad died at 92, that's what I heard all that. Oh, you should be so happy he lived a long life. And I was, of course, grateful
Both
because
things
he
can
had
be
us,
true.
but, late in life that he lived so long. But I also miss my dad. I tell people, like, you've known him your whole life. Of course you're
Yeah.
going to miss him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that was,
Yeah.
and my mom was 75. So, soon for her side of the family. But, and I had her for almost 45 years, but it's still my mom,
It's still
Yeah.
your mom. Yeah.
and even if it had been 120, it would still be
Yes.
my mom.
Yeah.
So kind of shifting gears now that we're coming up on a year, I find that my son is bringing up Cookie a lot more. Is that normal? And in the alternative, what are some signs that caregivers need to look for of possibly things that are abnormal and that you might need some help outside of your family unit, in your community, in your village? And
Right.
we're so fortunate we have a great church home. He goes to an amazing school with good resources. Like, what are some things to look for?
First of all, we know that children show more reaction a year to even 2 years out of a
Okay.
death. So he's he's doing what the
Okay.
research says.
Okay.
And I think the signs are if they're really stopping doing activities they like to do before.
Okay.
So they're isolating. If they're, angry outbursts and emotion, usually children's feelings come out in behaviors. But if those behaviors are really interfering with their daily life, if they're getting in trouble more in school, if they're being destructive, of course, with older children, we might see some self-harm, of course, some, sleeping and eating patterns that are continuing, because it's right, for the first several months, it's normal for those to be out of whack. But if they continue and maybe they're something that's just really interfering with their, who they are normally are, I think for children, a play or art therapist is really important, though, and someone that's trained in grief.
Yeah.
Or a community like Kate's Club, or both.
Yeah.
And Kate's Club isn't just for kids who are having trouble coping. This community is what we do, and we
Right.
often send a child to individual therapy as well because they need just a higher level of something.
Sure.
I was going to
Go
say
ahead.
there's, there are some things that might be obvious, like drop in grades, kind of how they're performing in school. That's the partnership with the school, we believe, is so important
Yeah.
because that's who your kid is with all day long.
Yeah.
Most of the,
Oh,
that's their job.
For sure.
And if they're having trouble there, then that's typically the first sign that we see in the kids that we work with. Something's happening at school.
So you talk about partnerships, and for people who are listening and watching that that don't have the luxury of having you all right down the street or a club right down the street, what are some other online resources or tools that you would give them, that you could point them to say this would be a good place to start exploring age appropriate language and really helping yourself, putting your oxygen mask on, but then by virtue of having that trickle down effect to really help your child grieve in a healthy way?
Well, yeah, I can take some of that. So yes, we are, Kate's Club does have locations in different places in Georgia, but if you're outside of Georgia, you can look at the National Alliance for Children's Grief website that has, maybe you have a center near you. You never know. And as far as resources go, you can definitely go to our website to find how to talk to children, how to take care of yourself, and those different kinds of resources. And another great resources for younger children is Sesame Street Workshop. And they have some wonderful videos and some different activity sheets that are really helpful. And they have them on grief and all other kinds of hard issues that come up throughout childhood.
It's so interesting how Grief Brain works. I used to work for a PBS and NPR affiliated station, and I forgot about the resources of Sesame Workshop until you mentioned it
and they've
now.
just redone them, and they've kind of refurbished them. And I was talking to the people who did it and reviewed them for them. So I think they're a great resource.
Yeah, they're amazing. Thank you for reminding me of that. I can't believe I didn't think of that. But when you're in the middle of it, you sometimes miss the obvious, which would be so obvious for me because I was the attorney for a station.
And the book list, it's on our website. We have some great recommendations of books to read with children.
That's great. Including one that Lane wrote.
To
put that out there. A couple other just resources. One is we do a bit of our programming virtually. And in fact, our young adult program, so 18 to 30-ish years old, that program is hybrid. So we have some young people come to our clubhouse, some are on the Zoom, but we have young adults all over the country, a couple in Europe, who are participating in that program because they become part of that community.
That's awesome.
And that's how they maintain. So we do quite a bit of our work kind of in the virtually. And we actually have a new resource, Kate's Hub, where we're trying to put a lot of our resources that are sitting on our website, but also inside of a hub so that we can create a space where parents in particular and young adults can talk, if you will, through the hub, through a safe platform, and have a conversation that way. So much of it is peer-to-peer support. But we facilitate.
Yeah.
And then it's the community that supports each other. And we do, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our work in schools.
Yeah.
So in Georgia, and I know other grief organizations do this outside of Georgia, if a family cannot come to the clubhouse and they want to have a grief group at their school, we make that happen.
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, before I let you go, I have 5 questions that we ask, kind of lightning round, top of your head.
It's like speed dating.
Yeah, a little bit like speed dating.
Right.
I call it the Fabulous 5. Y'all can take turns. And it can be silly. It can be serious. You can swear if you choose. You don't have to. So I'll just jump in. So what's a life lesson that a woman in your life gave you that you reflect on a lot? It could be something from your mom, your grandma, or even a female mentor in the workspace.
One is don't judge your insides on other people's outsides. Meaning that people always, we put our best. People look together to us, but you never know what's going on in the inside. And we're usually judging how we're feeling and, they have it together. They're doing so great. Yeah. So that was a great advice from a therapist.
Oh, I love that. I've said a couple of times on this show that we're all carrying these invisible backpacks of heavy rocks. Yeah. And especially, I don't know any woman who is not dealing with something heavy. For me, it looks like I lost my mom. For somebody else, it looks like their marriage isn't necessarily as healthy as it could be, or they're facing a career change or whatever. But I love that.
I like that question. Can I answer that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Both of y'all. Yeah.
One of the best pieces of advice I had actually in raising my children, who are now all young adults, is that be very mindful of saving and protecting, which is what you want to do as a mom, and indicating to them that they can't do it themselves. So where is that balance? So I want to help my son, and he's hearing loud and clear, my mom loves me, she cares about me. He's also hearing, I can't do it by myself. So that kind of like guiding that line has been like a life lesson that I also learned from a therapist. But it was life-changing for me because I always want to save my kid.
I think that's our instincts, right?
Yeah.
And just watching myself on the, wait a minute, how is he
capable of
if he's going to fall flat on his face but still be safe?
Yeah.
I should let him do it by himself.
And that builds resiliency. That's what builds resilience. Yeah.
So that's I live with that.
That's something I needed to hear. That's something I needed to hear. Yeah.
And I have to remind myself very often because they're in their 20s. I still want to save them.
Yeah. I said to somebody last night, I said, he will be 45 and I will always want to know he's okay.
Yeah, well, that doesn't change.
No, that doesn't change.
I mean, he'll be my age, and I'll be, whatever age I will be, and I will still always check in on him, and probably, along with my husband, put their two needs above everybody else's.
Right.
So we all have kind of low moments besides caffeine and crying in the car. What's something that's super comforting to you?
Just time with friends, like coffee, of course, and being with friends is really helpful. Outside, if possible.
Yeah. What about you?
Being outside.
Yeah.
Even if it's a really yucky day.
Yeah.
I run. That's my self-care time without a phone.
Yeah.
No earbuds.
No music, nothing?
No, nothing.
Wow, that is impressive.
So, but I'm with people a lot. I love people. And, but being by myself actually is very
that's helpful too.
Helpful, and being outside during that time is kind of my go-to.
Yeah. I think we all need that quiet just to be able to listen to our inner compass and whatever we believe to be God. And if,
absolutely,
you have to get quiet to have that happen. Yeah. What's the most sacred or sentimental thing in your home that, you got to pack up and go besides a pet and loved ones? What are you grabbing?
I'll let you go.
Want me to go? Okay. I got one on that. So I'm Jewish. My family is Jewish, and we have a moose menorah, and that would be what I go grab. Is the moose menorah.
Cool.
It's just something that actually my dad made. It's like soldered together, and it's been resoldered. The thing is like fallen off. The whole thing is a mess. It's got candle wax all over it, and my son actually is the one who resolders the top, the candle holders.
What a beautiful tradition.
Yeah, no, and we, even though they live in all far away places, every night of Hanukkah we Zoom and light the moose menorah together.
I love that.
I was trying to think. I think I have a little corner in my family room now that I kind of honor my people who have died. My mom and dad, and just a year and a half ago, my brother. And so I think I would get their pictures and just, I have a little area for them and for my dog that died, his collar, and maybe I just gather up, throw everything, all their pictures and things in my brother's baseball cap and stuff in a bag.
Yeah. If you're asking God one question or whatever you call God, what do you want to know? And it doesn't have to be anything deep. It could just be of the moment right now.
Yeah. What's happening? Maybe that'll be a good question.
Yeah. What's happening right now? It'll be okay.
Yeah. So the last one, what is kind of a go-to phrase that you say a lot? It can be when you're kind of done or you're in a really joyful place. It could be a word that's a phrase that's flexible. It can be a swear word if you want it to be. What's kind of your go-to word or phrase?
I'm trying to think. I'll tell my husband, I've found, how they talk about being hangry. I've added tired on it. So I say I'm thangry, because usually it's tired. I can be hungry and almost be okay. But I am tired too in the mix. And so I just have to let him know that things aren't good.
You're
so
right.
Maybe I just say thangry.
I'm going to need you to throw a package of crackers at me or something.
And go take a nap, please.
Yeah.
And I guess I have a phrase that Lane knows well, but I'll say, let me noodle on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Let me
that's
noodle.
what you're-
Noodle means I just need a second.
Yeah. Just
Like
to take a
something hit
beat.
me, there's something else in there that I'm not getting. I just feel I don't feel comfortable answering. So I'll just say, let me noodle on it. And it kind of everybody knows now I need a second to process.
Yeah. That's great. I think the entire world would be a better place if we all just took a beat to say before reacting.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all both so much. I think what I heard today is that presence and connection is more important than perfection. And whether you have grown children or teenagers or grade school kids or toddlers, that there are resources to help you, but really it's about you honoring yourself and connecting with them wherever they are. And maybe if there's love behind it, you'll get most of it right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
absolutely.
thank you both. I appreciate y'all. Give everybody the website for Kate's Club.
Sure, it's katesclub.org. So KATESCLUB.
All right.
.org.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, that's it for today. You can ache for who you were before everything changed and still become someone new. Grief and growth sit at the table, often passing notes when we're not looking. This tea, this time, is part of your healing, and it's part of mine too. You're not broken. You're just brewing. And besties, we do not gatekeep around here. If there is something in this episode that filled your emotional cup, share it with a friend. Follow, subscribe, and your seat at the table will be waiting for you next week. Follow along on Instagram at How Do I Do This Pod and on YouTube at How Do I Do This Pod. DM me on Instagram and tell me what kind of grief you're holding right now. Seriously, I'll read every one and will probably be the person to respond back. Tell me what you have tried that you think might help me. I'm open to trying anything that's not illegal. Your story might find its way into one of our future episodes.